to Puerto Rico.
Big tax break. Get this. If I set up a C corporation there, I employ 5 Puerto Rican residents, which doesn't necessarily mean a Puerto Rican. It's someone who's resident there, lives there 183 days of the year or more. If I employ 5 of them, with my wife and I each count as 1, so really 3, that C corporation gets taxed at a flat 4% rate. And Puerto Rico is one of the few places in the world where U.S. income taxation does not apply, because we're a different sort of country. Most countries tax on residence. When you move out of the country, they don't tax you. The U.S. taxes on citizenship. Almost everywhere in the world you go, the U.S. government follows and taxes you, except Puerto Rico is an exception. We have an arrangement with them that they tax you instead for any work done there. So I'm going to drop my rate. Anything run through that, which I'm going to run my law practice through it. It's perfectly legit. I'm going to run it through there and pay a 4% flat tax.
Just 4% flat tax.
State, local, everything, federal, everything. 4% flat tax for anything run through that company. Then I've got what comes out of my Roth IRAs, which is non-taxable. I'll have my U.S. real estate, which is taxed in the U.S., and then taxed in Puerto Rico if it shows income, which I'll make sure that it legitimately does not show income. And then probably what will get taxed in Puerto Rico and the U.S. is when I fly from Puerto Rico to the States, because you know I like to speak. And so when I go to these groups and speak and sell my books and courses and such, I'll make some income in the U.S. I pay the U.S. tax, and then the Puerto Rican tax outside of the corporation's higher, so I'll pay the difference. But I did the math. This is worth 6 figures to me every year.
You're giving yourself a massive pay raise by doing nothing but moving to Puerto Rico.
At least $100,000 a year.
That is
at least $100,000 a year.
Nothing else really changes. Just kind of go. So it's all about
Well, something changes. They got 150 beaches.
Oh man!
And people say, well, aren't they having economic problems now? Well, yeah, but shouldn't that attract you as a real estate investor? You think things might be cheap? I was looking at some of the HUD deals, and we're thinking of moving into one. So we get the first crack at the bid. How many of your accountants or lawyers would even know what a HUD deal is, or that you get the first crack at the bid for moving into it? We were looking at some really upper end properties in foreclosure and thinking about snagging one of those and moving in. You got to live in it for a year, and you can only snag an owner-occ one on the HUD, first come on the bid every 2 years. But the same HUD system that applies in the U.S. applies there. You just got to be very careful what you buy, because there are some parts of Puerto Rico that are really freaking rough. But if you're in New York or Chicago or L.A.,
that's the way it goes.
There's some places where you don't go, and you can usually tell. The signs are the same of where, don't go here. Pretty much if my tenants will live there, don't go there at night.
Okay. Man, that's amazing.